What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. This episode is brought to you by Virtual Intelligence, recently merged with our friends at OnHand VA, your premier partner for client-facing and back-office virtual employees. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of LAF Advisors in Long Island, New York. Big dog, what's up today?
Man, I'm pumped. I'm so excited to have this conversation with Juan. Juan, every time we talk, we could talk for hours. So I'm excited to bring some value to the audience, talk about all things marketing, talk about all things social media, and just get into it, man.
Sean, I know when you love when I do this. So why don't you take it away and introduce Juan for us today?
Oh, just throw me on the spot. All right. Yeah. So Juan, I'm just gonna throw in my experience. So Juan Lopez is with Uninhibited Marketing, which is his own company that he opened up. Juan, how long ago now?
I would 7 months, I think.
7 months. Yeah.
long and short.
So like we said on live lessons, you're in the thick of it right now, right?
Yeah,
You're going through it. You're trying to grow a
Yes.
company. It's awesome. You've been super knowledgeable with, I think, just explaining to me like how to story tell better, right? And putting that vision kind of in writing and sharing it with my audience. So I would say that's kind of the magic of Juan Lopez.
Juan, just start off, man. Introduce yourself, your story, how you got to where you are today. I want to dive definitely into the why behind the business and the trials and tribulations in the short 7 months, because the podcast listeners that are listening are scratch agents who have been there. And I whether it's a marketing company, independent agency, whatever it is, when you're bootstrapping something from nothing, it's a grind. So looking forward to diving into that as well.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and say that I've been working with an insurance since 2015. So I graduated from Florida International University in 2012, which seems forever ago now. And I had a bachelor's in English Lit, and then I got what is basically a minor in professional and public writing, which was a program that they offered my very last semester, and I crammed it in that very last semester because I understood the value of it. So basically, it was just finding out how to cater to a certain audience. You know, if you're whether it's politics or business or whatever it may be, understanding who your audience is and then writing specifically for them. From there, I applied for a whole year to different copywriting positions, different marketing positions, and I did not get one reply back. Not one. So I said, well, okay, now I have to go and into the real world, quote unquote. Um, I started at a flood underwriting company, right? They hired me, and when I was looking for jobs at first, I thought underwriting was like copywriting. I'm like, oh, this is probably gonna, I had no knowledge of insurance
It says
whatsoever.
writing in it,
Yeah. So I was like, So I remember my first day there, someone's like, "Whoa, what do you know about insurance?" I said, "Nothing, nothing." And I was going into a flood underwriting company, which flood is super specialized. I was there for about 16 months, and then I went from there, and I joined Marsh and McLennan, so that I joined the agency side. Um, I got laid off from there after like about a little less than a year and a half, and then I was like, I'm not doing insurance anymore. I hate this. I don't want to. I don't want to do this. My experience was just not the greatest. But then I had an interview with Jag Insurance Group, which was now a part of Hub International. Um, and I kind of, at first, I'm like, well, this is just what I'm going to do until I do what I want to do, right? I need a job.
Mm.
But I kind of fell in love with the culture there, and I fell in love with the people there. And then from there, I remember one day, I don't know where I got the uh, the courage to go ahead and do this, but I went into the CEO's office about 3 months into be there, and I said, the copy on your website is not really reflective of the culture of the company. It's not it's not particularly good. It's not very engaging. And to her credit, she was like, "Okay, do you want to rewrite it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll rewrite it." So I rewrote it. And that was the first thing. And then there was there was always this talk in the office. It's like, oh man, your emails are so great. Da, 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 da. Yeah. So then I was there. I was, on the administrative side for about a year, and then from there, one faithful afternoon, uh, people from Vader Media are coming, right? Because Jag just entered into the Vader Mentors program, which is now the Sasha Group, a subsidiary of Vader Media, and I met Maribel Lara and Mark Evans at this happy hour, and I start talking to them, and I start talking to them how I've always loved storytelling, and I thought, I didn't think anything of it. I thought I was just having a conversation while drinking, it was a happy hour or whatever. I come to find out later that when Douglas Jones, who was one of the principals at JAG, when he's driving them back to the hotel, they tell him, "Don't look for anyone else. That's your guy. That's the guy that's gonna run your marketing. Don't worry about it." Because they were very insistent on the fact that the guys can run it themselves, which every small business owner finds out eventually that they cannot run the marketing themselves. There has to be a certain detachment from it because, um, at the end of the day, you're a small business owner. You're not a marketer. And even though you know your business well, it's going to be overwhelming to try to learn everything. And eventually you get to a point where you have such um, a volume of business that it's detrimental to even focus on the marketing. You need to bring someone in. Um, so, I get called into Doug's office. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get fired probably. I don't know why I'm getting called. I never get called into his office. And he's like, no, this is what we're doing. We're gonna pivot. We've been doing this thing with Vader, and we want you to run point. And I'm like, this is 2018. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Um, I was super happy because I was already as much as I loved the culture and all that stuff, I was already frustrated because that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do insurance for the rest of my life, but I did love the company and I did love the culture and the people and all that type of stuff. So it was an easier transition because I already knew the company, right? I already knew the people. I already knew the personalities. From then on, I was there for what was it from 2018 to 2022. About when they merged or got bought out by Hub. Afterwards, I was like, all the Hub people were like, "Man, you're amazing. You're great. We love your marketing." But I remember one day getting an email, uh, uh, with guidelines like brand guidelines, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to uh, write or create, and nothing against that, because they are a wonderful company from everything that I understand. But I didn't want to do assembly line content. Me, personally, it wasn't satisfying for me. So I resigned and I went to a another company, uh, and they were mostly like employee benefits and stuff like that. So it's something new. After about almost like a year and a half, me and them were not on the same page as far as what the marketing should be or what should be done. So it was kind of a mutual split, and I enjoyed my time there. I learned there. I learned about different things, um, not only marketing, but just interrelationship things and finding a way to find common ground with people. Um, but it wasn't. And then after that, I was kind of half-heartedly applying for jobs. And I sat down, and then one of my now clients, Alexander DePazzo, he was familiar with my work at JAG, and he reached out to me on LinkedIn. I put a whole manifesto on LinkedIn about how I was, unemployed and all this stuff. And he's like, "Hey, you want to grab lunch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, sure." So I went to lunch with him. We were talking. He was telling me about a little bit about how he was doing his marketing. and who was doing his marketing and what he wanted out of it. And I told him, he's like, I know what you do, and I explained to him, I'm like, listen, but I'm not a video editor, just so you know, because that's a major. I'm not a video. Sean knows I'm not a video editor. He understands.
Confirmed.
um,
Confirmed.
so but he was like, no, we'll do this, and I knew another video editor from my time at FD, um, and I said, okay, look, let me think about this. He didn't really, he wasn't really like proposing that I come on as this guy. He's like, I can't afford you on staff, but maybe we could do something. And I'm like, okay. But he was being like, coy about it. He was slowly seducing me rather than going to, straight to the point. So I said, okay, all right. And then I sat at home and I thought to myself, I'm like, am I going to continue building for other people, especially for people who oftentimes don't understand what I actually do and don't, uh, for lack of a better term, appreciate it,
I'm going
or
to stop you right there. Dive into that. Dive
uh,
into what you just said. Am I going to continue to build for other people? That is such a powerful, because there's so many people that listen to this podcast that are in their journey because of what you just said. Dive
yeah.
into what that means for you.
So for me, it was kind of like, okay, I have this skill set, a particular set of skills, you might say, and and I have this skill set. I have this good um rapport with people. I can talk to people, and that's because I'm genuinely interested in people. I love people. I hate them sometimes, but I love them mostly. And um I'm fascinated by their stories. So I love listening to it, and I have this thing, and I have this way that I want to do marketing. I have my way that I want to do branding and social media marketing. Um, that does not vibe with a lot of these other um either marketing agencies, or it doesn't vibe with the actual people who are hiring me. And I'm like, you know what, I trust myself at this point. I trust my instincts. I trust my storytelling, and I trust that it could be a benefit to particularly small business owners in helping them stand out and be more human in a world that is becoming less and less so as time goes on. And I'm against these big companies. These big companies have tons of resources, but what they cannot buy is heart. No one can buy heart. That comes from the person, or it comes from the people, and it's apparent. It is super apparent to anyone who sees it. Heart, soul, all that type of stuff. So if I'm going to put
Yeah,
my heart,
personality, it's unique.
yeah, exactly. So if I'm going to put my heart and soul into something, why am I not going to put my heart and soul into myself? And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then when I was coming up with a name, the word uninhibited has always kind of been special to me, because I was like, okay, this is going to be uninhibited marketing. Why? Because it is going to be uninhibited by tradition. It's going to be uninhibited by industry norms. It's going to be uninhibited by anything that's traditional, or what should be, right? We're throwing that all away. If you're coming on with me, Sean can attest. If you're coming on with me, I'm gonna make you uncomfortable in the best possible ways.
Hmm.
Because it's because I understand that people are, for lack, of a better term, are self-critical, and they're like, I'm not interesting. Not interesting. I
Yeah.
don't. I
Well,
don't.
real quick on that one,
Yeah.
because I think that's a really important thing to share is your personality is what makes you unique, right? And that's something you
Yeah.
implanted in me early on. And, a lot of the content we would share that you would help me with had a lot to do with me showing more of who I am, which honestly made me super uncomfortable. I can't tell you guys how many times like Juan would be like, all right, here's an idea. that I'm thinking of because I see it on your stories or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, I'm telling you, just listen to me. And I'm like, okay, I just feel funny, like I don't know what it is. I'm sure everyone's different, but sharing your uniqueness is a little uncomfortable. But I think that's the best way to show your true personality. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
Yeah.
the word that we're looking for here is vulnerability,
Yeah.
which is very difficult. Why? Because uh, vulnerability means sharing something by its very nature that makes you uncomfortable, that is, kind of, like wearing your heart on your sleeve. And
Yep.
as a professional, that's scary because
Mhm.
again, it goes beyond. I don't want to be judged. It goes to, well, am I going to lose business because I'm exposing XYZ about myself, right? And the truth is, most of the time you're not. You're not gonna. No one's gonna call you after seeing a post and be like, "Yo, I saw that post, man, and I'm gonna withdraw my policies from you because I don't know." No, they don't. No,
Can
but it might.
you can you
Unless it's
break
protocol.
down vulnerability and relatability? And I want
Sure.
to put myself in the hot seat and explain why.
Yeah.
So, if you've listened to the show or what just followed along, you probably know the journey. I came from a family agency, started my own agency 2 years ago. At the family agency, and again, there's no right or wrong. At the family agency, it was wear a tie every day. It was proper, all those things. When I went on my own agency, I tell people it was a little bit like I was let off my leash, but a little bit too much at first, right? I was like, oh, working from home, I can wear a hoodie today, whatever. But when I do my content and specifically like videos or whatever, I'll just pick up the phone and just go with it. Right. Like, and I think back to like 6 years ago when I first did my first video ever, I was like all nervous. Took me 2 hours to record a 2-minute video. My point is, I had a gentleman who's a good friend of mine reach out to me and make a comment and basically trying to just, give me a piece of advice or whatever about me wearing a backwards hat in one of my videos. We had a great conversation around it, but I replied to him with like, if someone doesn't want to buy insurance from me because I have a backwards hat on my video, they're probably not the person I'm looking to work with. And that just was a situation where I was home. I was working from home for the day. I had a backwards hat on. I picked up the video and said, just had this client situation and I wanted to share with you about this, and this. Did you know? Blah, 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 blah. Didn't think anything of it. And it
Hmm.
was just interesting. So I was vulnerable. I was putting myself out there. But I also think there's an interesting aspect from that. And I want you to reply to this whole thing about just being relatable. Like to somebody does, sometimes people don't want to just see the guy in the nice suit and tie every single day that looks like he's chalked up. And don't get me wrong, I wear a suit and tie all the time. I like looking nice, but there's time and place, right? I
Yes.
also can be relatable walking around town with a backwards hat, taking a video talking about insurance. Dive into
Yeah.
that.
So I'm gonna be a little bit unorthodox in the way that I explain this, but I'll go ahead. I'll put myself on the hot seat. Listen, I'm a huge nerd, so I got there's my desk over here. I got some Spider-Man action figures and stuff. Um, but if you look at the lore of superheroes, uh, what makes it good and what makes it successful is the relatability that we have to, say, Peter Parker, not Spider-Man. And what you're doing right there is that you are taking off the suit and showing the person behind the suit. And sometimes, especially now it's gotten a little more exasperated. Why? Because social media is like constant, like, hey, look at me, look at how I'm doing, look at my Lambo over here, look at this, look at that, and that culture um, is really permeating, right? It's like look what I have, look what I have, look what I have. Okay, but how'd you get it? Did you just rent the Lambo for a day and take a picture? Because I don't care about that. Or did you work for 10 years for it? Like that is what is important to me is the story and the person behind it. Listen, the truth is you're not going to beat any of these big agencies by getting in front of a camera and being like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you today what a deductible is. Newsflash, most
Mhm.
people who buy insurance don't even care what a deductible is. They buy it as a line item. They don't they just get it because they have to, you
Mhm.
know? They get it because they have to. And yes, there is a time and place for education. I am an advocate for education content because it gives you authority in your space. But people want to know who they're doing business with, especially in this day and age. Okay? They want to know who they're doing business with. They want to believe in you. They want to know that you're a good person. They want to know that they can get along with you. And my catchphrase for years was, and we'll say, uh, I usually say if they want to get a beer with you, they'll probably get a policy from you. Well, we'll say like if they want to get a Coke with you, just in case you don't drink or whatever it may be. But if they want to get a drink with you, they're probably going to buy whatever you're selling. Okay, because most of selling is personality driven. That's what it is. Especially in insurance, you're all fishing in the same pond. Okay, you're all working with the same carriers. Spoiler alert. Okay, you're all working within the same confines and constructs. Okay, so what is your advantage? Your advantage is who you are as a person. No one can replicate you. Okay, and that is something that sounds corny, but it's true. Everyone has their different um personality traits, something about them that is unique
Their
and will
unique
attract,
ability.
yes, and will attract the right audience. Because guess what? That video that you made, maybe someone saw it and they're like, "Oh man, this guy doesn't look stuffy. This guy doesn't look like like a hard ass. He doesn't look like he's presumptuous or putting on a front. Let me talk to this guy." Because again, insurance already has a bad reputation. Let's be honest. Like insurance salesman uh is not the same as car salesman, but it's in
It's
the same
close.
ballpark
Pretty damn
probably.
close.
Yeah. So eh, you want to dispel that myth of what an insurance agent is, and if that's a backwards baseball cap, so be it. That's just you taking off the mask. So again, no one cares about Batman if they don't care about Bruce Wayne. So it informs each other. Yes, it is necessary to be professional, but I won't go into it. But I have a whole philosophy on what it actually means to be professional. And it has nothing to do with whether you have tattoos or what you wear or piercings or anything like that. It's everything to do with how you treat people, and that is true professionalism. And that's what's going to keep you clients is that type of thing.
Patrick Murakami came on this podcast twice, and I'll never forget one of the things that he said. He always tells his team is you have one chance, and I'm going to butcher it. Sean, help me here. What it was, you have one opportunity to make people feel the way they do before you walk away. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
You have one time to make a good first impression.
Yes.
It's driving me
Look,
nuts because it's not even close, but that's
No,
that's at
it's
least
not
close
close
enough.
at all.
And I'm gonna have
that's
to look it up.
why the word paraphrasing exists. You were
Yeah.
paraphrasing.
But what I want you to dive into is for the people, and like when you talk about vulnerable, I'm completely comfortable being on camera now. I look back at when I did my first video like 7 years ago, and I set it up on stacked tissue boxes because I didn't have a tripod, and it was about 2.5 minutes of what this video segment was going to be. It took me about 3 hours to record. With that being said, my number one interaction, community comments, whatever videos are my day in the life videos. And that is the number one thing that makes me so uncomfortable. I feel so vulnerable doing it, because especially when you're doing the voiceover and sitting there like in the backyard, because you don't want your wife to hear you sitting here voiceovering your day in the life video as an insurance agent, and you just put it. But that is the number one. I like if I'm out at an event, people are like, "Those are so cool, keep doing them," and like so I do it because I get a good response, but it's so vulnerable. Talk to us about the people that maybe have done no video or just starting or are nervous about it or whatever, and like the advice that you give them to walk through those barriers.
Okay, so I often refer back to, so I'm a big film fan as well, and there's this guy who's in hip hop, but he also is in film. His name is Boots Riley, and he had a panel uh at the Miami-Dade Film Festival a few years back, like 2019. He was there with two other filmmakers, and he's talking about making his first movie. He's talking about a sequence that he filmed, and he says, "If I had known how to actually do things, I would have never filmed it that way. Everyone would have told me it was a dumb way to do that, to go about that. But it turned out to be one of the better parts of the movie." So he says, if you take anything away from this panel, take this away. And I did. It's been one of my models forever. He's like, no one knows what the F they're doing. No one. No one knows what they're doing.
Man, cliffhanger.
Okay,
Hold
these
on.
people that you see out there, they're like experts and stuff like that. They experiment. Everyone has to
Juan.
experiment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, it froze for a second. I got to the part where you said about the panel
Okay, so
and your key takeaway, and then it cut out.
what a horrible way to go out. So the key takeaway was like, Boots was like, if you take anything away from this, know that no one knows what the F they're doing. Okay? It's like everyone walks around pretending to know what they're doing, but even the most experienced people come across things that they don't know. You know?
Yeah.
So you need to, it's fear and it's ego. These things are the things that prevent us from doing the things that, should be done. As far as social media is concerned, I've dealt with people who are super charismatic off camera. Oh my God. Light up a room. And then I put a camera on them and they're like deer in the headlights. Deer in the headlights, terrible. Okay? And I've dealt with people who are, not as rambunctious. And then you put them on camera and they're just very steady presence. But the point is that a lot of it is ego because a lot of us want to control the way that we're perceived. And I read a lot of Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius and this type of stuff. And the fact is that you are not in control of how other people perceive you. You can't be. You cannot control how other people feel or think about you. You can only do what's best for you and then move on from that. And I think the one thing that probably hurts the most also is that there will be people close to you who say, "Oh, why are you doing that? That's dumb. Why would you film a day in the life? Why would you spoiler alert, Sean, why would you do a post about rocking? Like why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense." And what you have to say is, well, you're not going to, for lack of a better term, get directions from someone who's blind. Those people don't have the vision, okay, to understand what you're doing, okay? Even now, I have, people who are like, well, building a business is hard. I'm like, well, I didn't assume it would be easy. I'm not going to just, come into here and think, oh, I'm the best marketer ever. No, that is not going to happen. It's little by little and understanding that I build brick by brick. But yeah, I would say to circle back to your thing, it's just like people are afraid of being vulnerable. It has a lot to do with the way that they're raised, right? It's a lot to do with the industries that they're in, a lot to do with a lot of stuff that we don't have a bunch of time to psychoanalyze. But I would say that my main advice is just start. Start. Get in front. You literally have this right here, like, and you can use it at any time. And guess what? If it sucks, you can delete it. And if it sucks, understand this. Michael Jordan didn't get picked on his high school team. Okay? There's plenty of athletes and plenty of people who did not get their breaks until later on in life. So why is it that you are boxing yourself in to say, oh, well, no one's going to care about what I do? Perfect. If no one's watching, that means you can experiment. It means you can do whatever you want and find what works for you. And the last thing I'll say about that is that everyone thinks everyone's watching, but no one is watching that closely. Everyone has their own lives, No one is going to all of a sudden be like, again, that's the ego talking. It's like no one is all of a sudden going to be like, oh, man, did you see like what Sean did? Did you see what Steven did? Did you like
Steven's from a small town. They might.
Well, maybe. I don't know how things go in Long Island or Clinton, but but still, um, you that fear is only going to go away by doing it. You
Yeah.
know, that
Yeah.
fear is only going to go away by doing the thing. And listen, you don't have to get on video. Okay, most
Yeah.
of the posts I've done for Sean don't have video, and they've done pretty well.
Yeah.
It could be a picture, it could be something that you just want to talk about, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But start and get into that habit because again, nothing happens without you building it.
Juan, talk to us because we're a little limited on time. We're coming close to the time, and I want to really touch on this so people
Go for
know
it.
why they should be doing this. Right? We already touched on
Yeah.
sharing. Your personality is what makes you unique.
Yeah.
Why should we do it? And just to add to that, in your experience doing this at JAG with Vayner Mentors from
Yeah.
2018 to 2022, like what was, and even for the clients you have now, why would you tell somebody to invest in marketing and do this? Like, what's the ROI for them?
Okay. So I do you have to think about it as the long game, which is very difficult for small business owners because small business owners have several fires at once, right? There's several things that are happening. You have to address this. You're growing, so now you have to hire people, and you don't have all this stuff in
Yep.
addition to whatever's happening in your personal life. We all have personal lives, so that's
Yep.
a difficult thing to navigate by itself. What I would say is that there's an advantage that you're going to have if you begin the process of building your brand and building your marketing and building your audience. Okay. Um, I think a lot of people associate marketing with big Super Bowl commercials and they associate marketing with like these huge campaigns. And you don't have to start that way. You got to build up to that. Okay. You got to build up to it. And if you're a first year, second year, third year small business owner, honestly, maybe you can't afford to bring on a marketing person. But if you could find someone like me and say, and Sean can attest to this, hey man, I have this much of a budget. What can we do within this?
Yep.
Some of them might tell you to go to hell. I'm not that guy, but some might tell you, hey, I have my fixed rate, whatever. But if you go and you say, hey, this is my budget, which you're going to need a budget, whether it's low or you're going to require a budget for marketing, um, and you say, hey, I want to start building one post a week. Okay. And then, you start building your rapport with your audience and you start building that audience. And the best metaphor that I can come up with is that social media marketing and online marketing is gardening. Okay. You are planting a seed. All right. And the way that you're planting the seed, and you want to relate it to insurance, is someone sees your post. Then they see another post 2 weeks later. Then they see another post a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever. Subconsciously, they're there, and they're like, oh, these people. The day that they buy a house, the day that they launch a business, the day that they need a construction project, the day that they need anything, they're gonna think of you. Because the fact is, and this is a quote that goes around like marketing LinkedIn a lot, is that 99% of your audience is not ready to buy now. It is a
Hmm.
very difficult thing to accept. Okay? Because a lot of people think, oh, they're going to see a post and they're going to buy it. Not in B2B. B2C, which is, directly to consumer, like if you're scrolling through Instagram and you see an ad for like a really cool hat, you're like, that would look great backwards in one of my videos. I'm gonna buy it right now. Boom. All right. But with insurance, law services, real estate, these things that are B2B, it's not an instant gratification purchase. It's not going to happen that way. And a lot of that stuff happens with referrals as well. Referrals are the lifeblood of kind of the B2B world. And you have to really work hard to establish yourself little by little. Think of it, I think Sean, you were discussing this the other day. You had like a 5-year plan, you know, or something like that. What is your 5-year plan? Incorporate marketing into that. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be known for? Because as they say, brand is what people say about you when you're not around. Okay? So what is your brand? Okay? What are your core values? Establish your identity, you know? Like if you go on a date with someone and they ask you like, "Hey, what are your hobbies?" And you're like, "I don't know." And yeah, like, "What are you into?" "I don't know." Uh, like a bunch of I don't knows. No one's gonna want to date you. So, it's kind of like dating. So you want to break that barrier because also what happens is, and what people don't realize is that as you build your audience, even if they don't buy from you right away, they feel like they know you, right? They're like, "Oh,
That's the big one.
Sean was in the Air Force." It's like, "Oh, Steven used to be part of a family business that he went on his own." And there's that familiarity, and what you're doing is that you're creaking the door open a little bit more. You're taking away that initial like when you meet someone, that need to have to like cram everything about you in there. You're chipping away at it. So I would say to summarize, it's just that you need to see it as an investment and it'll scale, right? Like you just need to say, okay, I'm going to hire someone to do 2 posts a month. And then, oh, the business is doing a little better. Let the
Makes
social media grow alongside your company.
Yeah.
Do not.
Juan, one thing I wanted to add to that, but I truly believe besides the potential policies you can obtain from doing social media,
Yeah.
I think one of the most underestimated things is the possibility of recruiting people to your team,
Oh, yeah.
and Jag was the perfect example of that. The way that you guys shared what that culture looked like made people I know like question, what am I doing here? you know, like that's how good of a job they did, and
Yeah.
you did. So
Yeah.
I think that's and again, I know that takes time to build. I just
Correct.
feel like it's a very underestimated part that maybe a lot of people don't think of. And again, it's not going to happen right away. It's a long-term thing. But if you can share a lot of your company culture too, as you
Yeah.
build, I think that's invaluable.
You.
It especially in the day where everyone's saying so hard to find good people, blah, blah, blah. Like I know a local restaurant here. Um, I'm good friends with the owner. He's 28 years old or whatever, but he does that on social media with the restaurant. It's basically a local Mediterranean style like Chipotle. Like it's a, come in, get your meal, get out type fast food type deal, but they have the employee of the month that has the type of specific meal and they do all these marketing. I was talking to him the other day. He's got 23 people on a waiting list for a job at his place, like college students, young people like that, but still like you look at, I guarantee there's other restaurants in the area that can't find good help wanted all over the place, right? But they have that culture. They show that they're having fun, what they're doing, they're giving back to their
You
employees, they're
guys froze
spotlighting
on
their
me, I think,
employees,
a
and that's
minute.
what people want to be a part of.
Yeah,
You guys still there?
it gives the people that go to work a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. You froze there for a minute, but I got the tail end and I understand
Mhm.
everything you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to listen. One of the things that I say too is like if your team is not willing to engage with your content, other people will engage with it either, because you need to create a place where like people are like, oh, look, this video is from my job. Look how cool it is. That
Yeah.
pride that they're like, oh man, like I'm sharing this. Like, look how cool my boss is, or look how cool the places I'm at. That's kind of swagger. Which again, some people who are against backwards hats might be like, no, that's not good. Like, I don't want to be the fun agency because people associate fun with unprofessional. Um, but
Mhm.
that's their loss. But I would say that yeah, the recruitment part is also very important, especially in the insurance industry, where if you add a producer and they work out, you are adding a great deal to your revenue. So
100%.
recruitment is key. Recruitment is key, and understanding what makes producers tick. I've been around producers for a very long time, so I understand their desires and kind of what they want. So I market towards that. and
Mm.
market towards, how, because a lot of jobs are like, whoa, we could do this, 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 and this, and then we're all cynical about that type of stuff. But if you have visual proof, if you have success stories, if they could
Well, I
go to your
think you
Instagram or your LinkedIn or your YouTube or whatever and see all this stuff, eventually you'll make a believer out of the biggest cynic.
Yeah, and you're documenting it all, right? You're documenting the journey, documenting it all. That's why I tell people all the time, like, oh, put up this video or this late night post of me working. It's like just documenting the journey, because in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I can look back and be like, I remember exactly that late night work that I was doing. I remember
Yes.
exactly how that felt. Juan, we got to wrap this puppy up for time here, but what's a good way for people to get in touch with you? Thank you for joining us. There's so much good, valuable stuff here. We could probably talk about this for a 10-hour episode, but I think we packed a lot into the 45 minutes here. So what's a good way for someone, if they wanted to touch base with you, pick your brain, whatever it might be, to get in touch with you?
So I have an Instagram, which is uninhibited marketing. I am on LinkedIn under Juan Miguel Lopez. You might not, there's a lot of Juan Lopez's, so I don't know if you'll find me on there, but just look for my face. Uninhibitedmarketing@gmail.com is my email. And any of those platforms, you could just send me a message, and I'll be happy to engage with you. And just know that there's different ways in which I could, help or service your company, and don't be afraid to ask is what I would say. Don't be
Love it.
afraid to ask.
Cool. Love it. Well, thank you very much, everybody. That's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. Make sure to check out our community on the Telegram. Go to scratchagencypodcast.com, click join the community. Lots of good conversations going on there. But most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, in your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.